Good evening. I'd like to call this June 28, 2021 special meeting of the University Heights City Council to order. Mrs. Thomas, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Here.
Mrs. Berry,
Here.
Mrs. Pardee, Mrs. Weiss,
Here.
Mr. Ertl, Mr. Rock,
Here.
Mr. Gould,
Here.
Excuse Mrs. Pardee and Mr. Ertl.
So moved, Mayor.
Okay. Motion by Mrs. Blankfeld, second by Mrs. Weiss. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Mrs. Thomas, we call the roll.
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Will all those who are able please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
And to the republic
which stand
one
nation,
under indivisible,
with liberty
justice.
and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is ordinance 2021-23, authorizing all actions necessary to accept Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, NOPEC, 2021 Energized Community Grant and declaring an emergency. This is an item for preserving approximately $28,000 funds that we have to accept by June 30th. Or commit at least to entering into using by June 30th. This is something that was to have been on the agenda meeting, but not. So we are asking today that this item be approved on emergency to preserve those funds for use here in the community. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Weiss, I presume on emergency.
Oh, sorry, on emergency.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Second by Mr. Gould. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is item B, a motion to accept Zoneco's RFP for comprehensive.
Mayor, did we call the roll on both suspension and adoption?
Oh my
No, it
goodness.
was just on the emergency.
Yes, thank you. Let's do that again. In fact, I think I just called it on the motion itself instead of on the suspension. So let's start over. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll first on the suspension of the rules?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Okay, very good. And then on the main motion itself.
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Very good. Motion carries. Mr. McConville, thank you for catching that. All right, next is item B. Motion to accept Zoneco's RFP for comprehensive zoning code update as the best bid and authorize the mayor to enter into contract with a total project cost not to exceed $110,000. Mrs. Drucker, you are here. I believe we have Zoneco representatives here as well. And Mrs. Drucker, did you want to start and then we'll turn it over to Zoneco?
Yes. Good evening, council. Good evening, Mayor. Just to give council some background, on June 1st and June 3rd, Mayor Brennan, Councilman John Rock, and I conducted interviews for the RFPs that were received for the city's comprehensive zoning code update. Based on our interviews, it's our recommendation that City Council accept and approve the proposal by Zoneco in the amount, as the mayor stated, not to exceed the quoted $110,000 fee, and that was for the total project cost. Sean Suter, who is the lead principal of Zoneco and who would be the project manager for this project for the city, he is present tonight. If in case council had any questions or had any comments, you can, he's here to answer your questions. So your consideration of this proposal and our recommendation is respectfully appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Drucker. Mr. Suter, do you want to make any kind of opening statement, or should we just open it up to questions?
Happy to be here. My name's Sean Suter, lead principal for Zoneco. Really love your community, and it's a great, diverse community with great, diverse land uses and a lot of potential as we work through modernizing, clarifying, cleaning up your zoning code. So we're looking forward to working with the city, its stakeholders, staff, and we are also joined by OHM advisors in their Cleveland office and their Columbus office. OHM advisors will work with us on graphics and mapping and some community engagement work as well. So we're glad to be teaming up with them. We write codes across Ohio and throughout the United States, mostly eastern part of the United States. We have a lot of experience in Ohio communities like yours, although, like I said, University Heights is a unique and diverse place. So sorry about that. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Suter. Are there any questions, Mr. Suter or otherwise, members of the council?
Well, I don't have a question. I could interject, Mayor, but
Sure.
just a comment. I was participating in the interview process with Ms. Drucker and the mayor, and I got to say we're very impressed with Zoneco. We're very excited to work with you, so I hope council considers this tonight. Most importantly, and this is just something for the community to understand, but one thing that really set you apart was the fact that there will be a land use attorney as part of the team, which we feel would be a really good benefit towards us, the city, since we have legal counsel. Luke McConville is our legal counsel, or legal law director. We feel that there's going to be a significant savings on our part, given that this would be a solid code, since you have a land use attorney on the team. And we were really impressed with your ability to do the future writing. We're a very unique community, and it's important that we're forward thinking and that we don't want something that is from the past, or so much has changed just in the last year with COVID. So there's a lot that would be affected by zoning. And since your expertise in leading in national conferences where you're speaking, and it just really compelled us to choose you guys based on that forward thinking. And those were a couple of things that really set you apart, and we're really excited to have you on the team if this is considered tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. We appreciate it. Look forward to working with you.
Very good. Is there a motion?
I'll move, Mayor.
Very good. Motion by Mrs. Blankfeld to accept Zoneco's RFP for comprehensive zoning code update as the best bid and authorize the mayor to enter into contract with a total project cost not to exceed $110,000. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Rock. Any discussion?
Mayor, I just want to thank the Economic Development Director. This has been not just months, but years in the making. And I know that council and the administration are very excited to get started.
Yes. Thank you.
And as Mr. Rock said, having a land use attorney who has that specialized expertise will be quite a bonus. Mr. McConville is extraordinarily accomplished, and his municipal law experience and other facets of his legal expertise are great, but having somebody who is specialized in land use, that I think will prove to be very valuable.
Thank you, Mrs. Blankfeld. If there's nothing further, Mrs. Thomas, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Very good. Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda was added by council members. This is item C, discussion regarding illegal directives given by Mayor Brennan to directors, chiefs, and department heads of the city of University Heights. So in response to this agenda item, I've prepared a few remarks. When I issued my memo of May 11, 2021, I reviewed the charter and applicable ordinances and was satisfied that I was taking action within the bounds of the law. I think it would be best for the city if, instead of arguing over the law and the relative rights and obligations under the charter and ordinances, that we address and resolve the problem actually at hand. It has to do with making good use of the expertise of our directors, chiefs, and department heads, and with that, being respectful of them and their time, together with being open with the public as to the public's work. My request of the City Council is to respect that. The charter provides that department directors are entitled to take part in all discussions in the council relating to their departments. Time and again, department directors have been present in meetings and not allowed to speak, and otherwise have not been heard. City Council must commit that it will no longer call department heads into committee meetings and not let them speak. That it will not call them to a meeting, leave them in the dark as to what is to be discussed, have them clear their schedule to be there, and then not even call on them to talk. Our department heads are professionals, and we must be respectful of them and of their time. Going forward, when council committee chairs call for a meeting, provide a descriptive agenda that lets the director know what to prepare for. The agenda topics should precede or accompany whatever poll you have the clerk of council send out to determine possible meeting dates. That has been a constant problem, and that must end now. Also, descriptive agendas let the public know what we are working on, and it allows the public to know whether they want to attend and listen to the discussion. There needs to be a commitment that we will not have another agenda that states simply ongoing discussion. That is not meaningful to give proper notice to the public. It is not transparent in conducting the public's business. Ordinance 220.10 states that there is to be a governmental affairs committee. Council has not constituted one since 2018 and 19. The council needs to be following the standing committee's ordinance and reconvene this committee. All standing council committees should report at every regular council committee meeting, no matter how many are created. We know that not every committee has a report for every meeting, but we list them and call on them, and they should offer a report whenever they have one. Notably, the things the Strategic Planning Committee purports to do belong in governmental affairs. Speaking of the Finance Committee, I want a commitment tonight from this council that for the next budget cycle, the first meeting be the presentation by the administration in support of its budget. It should be on the agenda specifically. That didn't happen. The finance director and the mayor prepared a presentation and we weren't permitted to give it. We weren't heard. The committee jumped right out of the gate declaring the cuts were called for. We never got to present on our proposed budget. Also, department heads were not heard from directly in this year's budget meetings. Again, the charter provides that department directors are entitled to take part in all discussions in the council relating to their departments. To the members of the public listening tonight, I'm sure none of the matters that I'm asking the council to commit to here sound in any way controversial, and they're not. Yet they haven't been happening. We are here today in this situation because these matters have not been respected repeatedly, consistently. There's been a fundamental lack of transparency in council's process. That has to change. If council will commit to all this, then yes, of course department heads will prepare for and attend committee meetings. They want to be heard. They want to make the case for what they're working on, and they want the process to be meaningful. I've spoken with them. I'm not naming names, but across the board, it is so discouraging to work on things and not be heard, not even get the chance to advocate for one's work. That must end now. I ask the council to affirmatively commit to all this, out of respect to the directors who work for the city and out of respect to the residents we all serve. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Golden.
Thank you. So I think that the context of the strategic planning committee and the conversation that we're having can't be had without that context. So I guess as part of this discussion, Vice Mayor Weiss, can you explain what the strategic planning committee's work has been and the process that you've gone through with that work?
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Gold. I want to, before I go through the excellent work that our committee, the Strategic Planning Committee, has done with members of the community, I just want to make a few opening statements about that. I want everybody to know that Council wants to make it clear that the Strategic Planning Committee and their lay representatives did excellent work. The goal for the administration and council is to work in harmony. And I think council truly wants this. I want to clear up some narrative that was just presented, and then I'll continue. First of all, the mayor happened to have been part of the overhaul of the committees, and there is no Governmental Affairs Committee anymore. That was put into writing many years ago, right at the beginning of his administration. If you want to talk about budgets, I asked, as the chair of the Finance Committee, to have a budget by September so we can hear from each department. I was constantly and continuously put off, and we did not receive a budget until February, when we had a March 31st deadline. So we had no time to actually speak to all of the directors in a public meeting because we had no budget. And to top that off, we were given a budget with a $3 million deficit. Now, putting that aside, we, with the Strategic Planning Committee, there was excellent communication between the mayor and council before council censured the mayor. I, as the head of the committee, was never told that the mayor was unhappy with any of the committee progress. In fact, I appointed the economic development director and the finance director to be the liaison to the mayor. The mayor actually approved every single document that went to the Strategic Planning Commission for approval. Finally, the strategic planning committee, by definition, is comprised of various stakeholders. You cannot have a strategic planning committee made up of just administration. You need lay leaders, you need council, you actually need business people within the community as well. We, as a council, just to continue, can create any committee we want by charter. And in fact, just to put it on the record, in June, I made a formal subcommittee called the Strategic Planning Committee, even though I did not have to do that because council is allowed to convene any type of committee that we create. Now, just to discuss what the Strategic Planning Committee achieved was, we beefed up all of the internal controls within the city. We approved an organizational chart. We approved compensation scales. We approved job descriptions. We approved a policy manual to go to council, which sat for 18 months in the mayor's office. We were in the middle of finalizing a rubric to define success. We are in the middle of finalizing performance outcomes. We finally have capital asset planning, which was desperately needed. And probably the most significant besides capital asset planning was the committee approved for council to approve a facilities assessment, which is underway. So in no way was this committee stagnant, was no way in this committee repetitive in anything that they did. And I am proud of our lay representatives, which are all residents, and I am proud of the work that we did. So I just want to make sure that in the record, this was all laid out. It is embarrassing and shameful that our mayor, who council desperately wants to work with, has not answered any emails since our censure. We cannot even have a conversation with him because to even discuss the strategic planning issues, because he won't answer anything. And this is the lay of the land right now, which is truly, truly unfortunate.
Vice Mayor Weiss, when you said that, you know, the mayor has made a statement today, the contents of it criticizing the participation of the directors and department heads is very different to the criticism that he lodged in his May 2021 memo. In fact, the reasons that he's given today regarding the participation of department heads, their inability to speak, were nowhere in the May memo, nor were they provided in the more recent email, both of which are attached to the council packet and available for the public to view on the University Heights Council website. Did the mayor have any conversations with you about his displeasure with the way that the strategic planning meeting was going, send any memos or emails, or in any other way communicate the displeasure of the strategic planning process to you prior to issuing his May 2021 memo preventing and directing department heads, chiefs, and others within the city administration from not to participate in the strategic planning process?
No, in fact, the mayor approved all of the documents that went before the strategic planning committee. That's exactly why we had directors. So there would be transparency with administration. And just as a side note, council would never not let a director speak at a meeting. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. You know, we don't need this to be a cross-examination, but we need to put to bed what's truth versus what's fiction. And again, council wants to work with this administration. We are being hindered by the mayor himself.
And Mr. McConville?
Yes.
I understand that there was a strong word that was used in the agenda, and that word was illegal. Prior to placing the agenda item on, I had a conversation with you. My understanding is that you have made the opinion and wrote to the city. Your email it was not part of the packet, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to describe. My understanding is it's your opinion that the mayor's directive issued to directors, department heads, and other members of the administration that they not participate with council, not attend meetings, and not provide information or other resources to council for use in the strategic planning process was illegal in 3 ways. Illegal first, because it violated the charter of the city of University Heights. Illegal second, because it violated the ordinance of the city of University Heights. And illegal third, because it violated the Ohio Revised Code. Could you describe those, your opinion and current understanding of the mayor's actions against the applicable law?
Well, I'll outline my legal opinion, starting with its conclusion and then walking through the analysis. My legal opinion is that council has the authority to direct department heads and chiefs to attend council meetings and to participate in those meetings and to answer questions that are put to them by members of council. I arrive at that opinion in a couple of different ways. The first is through the city's charter and ordinances, and specifically my email walks through the language in Article 3, Section 5C of the city's charter, which says as follows: the council shall by ordinance make provisions for the following. C, the enforcement of attendance at its meetings and punishment of disorderly conduct thereat. My opinion is that that language gives council broad authority to enact ordinances that enforce attendance at its meetings. I don't believe that that language is limited by other provisions of Article 3 or by other provisions of the charter. Section 220.24B of the codified ordinances similarly addresses attendance at council meetings and says that the mayor, as an ex officio member and or invited department heads, shall participate in committee discussions as deemed appropriate by such committees or advisory boards or panels or commissions. I think that this language can be read and is most easily read as creating a mandate that when department heads are invited, they shall participate in committee discussions or panel discussions, whatever the particular board or panel is that council has convened. In addition to that, there is an Ohio statute that is relevant. And this is the second way at which I arrive at my legal opinion. The statute is 73306 and is directly on point and reads that the mayor, the directors, and the several officers provided for in Title VII of the revised code shall attend the meetings of the legislative authority of the city when specifically requested by such legislative authority, and answer at such time questions put to any of them by any member of such legislative authority relative to the affairs of the city under their respective management and control. That statute is controlling because there's no provision in our charter that there's no provision in our charter that can be read to contradict that authority. So it's on those bases that I reach the conclusion. In that context, I sent an email out indicating that department heads are obligated to attend, and by implication, that email suggests that the mayor's directive to department heads that they not attend was unauthorized by law. We can get into semantics and nuance and so forth. Technically speaking, the Black's Legal Law Dictionary defines illegal as against or not authorized by law. The mayor's directive was not authorized in my legal opinion.
And I went through that language with you prior to placing it on the agenda, is that correct?
That's correct.
So the last part that I have with this discussion, and thank you, Luke, for that analysis. I think it was very detailed. Mayor, I want to echo the Vice Mayor's sentiments that council is open to hearing from you, hearing these concerns, whether they be, that the strategic planning process is not moving in the way that you want it to, or that your directors are not being heard in the way that you want them to at meetings. That hasn't been my experience. That hasn't been what I witnessed. I too am proud of the work that the Strategic Planning Committee did, but it's frustrating to hear that from you today in your address or in a memo, but without the conversation, without letting the Vice Mayor know, hey, I'm dissatisfied about this thing. You're my colleague. This isn't working for me. And the way that you've communicated that is unfortunately against law. And also, I'm really disappointed in, you have communicated that you are standing up for the administration, the directors of the city repeatedly on multiple occasions. And we too hear from them. I have heard from them. And again, as you didn't, without naming them, they are put in a horrible position by your directive. And it is a place where they have communicated great discomfort at being. And, to the directors on the line, as my final portion of this discussion, Mrs. Drucker, Mr. Engelbrecht, I have worked with each of you on issues in the past. I have, been very impressed by the work that you've done. I see Chief Perko on the line as well. I am trying to see who else is there, but to the directors on the line, I've had one-on-one conversations with each and every director for the city, and have worked with you in committee meetings on these issues. Again, as a colleague, if there is ever been anything or any time that you have not felt heard or included in the process, I personally am willing to work on that in a way that upholds the excellence of your work and the dignity of the work that we're all doing for the citizens of the city of University Heights. But I have not heard that from you directly, despite the fact that each of you has, on different occasions, reached out to me one-on-one. I haven't heard it from the mayor before today. And so it's very difficult for us to do anything about that when, again, our telephone calls aren't being returned by the mayor, our text messages aren't being returned by the mayor, our emails are not being returned from the mayor, and we are not having two-way conversations with the mayor. And so that, Mayor, is why I thought it was very important to bring this to the public light, because if in fact there are these issues as you've outlined today, I know that each and every member of council is willing to work diligently as a colleague to address those. So thank you for the time and for the opportunity to have this conversation. I'll turn the floor over to any other members of council who have anything to say.
Oh, I will
Or if not,
direct
to you.
members of council who wish to be heard. I am still chairing the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Gould.
Of course, Mayor.
Is there anybody else who would care to be heard at this time? If there's nothing further, then it would appear the topic is exhausted. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved, Mayor.
Okay, a motion by Mrs. Weiss. I'll take that as a second from Mr. Gould. Mrs. Thomas, will you please
Thank you,
call?
sir.
Mrs. Blankfeld, you're muted, Mrs. Blankfeld.
Thank you, Kelly. I got that. Thank you. Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Very good. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night.